Cyborg issue 1. Morgan Hampton writing with Tom Rainey on the art. So, Cyborg is back in Detroit, and we have the big thing from this issue though, the real we're dealing with Victor's daddy issues again, which could be a negative. I will say though, it's a little bit different when you're actually advancing the story by saying, no, his dad is dead. Like, this book starts off with him getting a phone call. He's mid-fight. Right. He's not answering, but when he finally answers it, the reveal is that his dad's died via heart attack. Although, obviously the ending does kind of bring him back, kind of, but...
Right, but the fact that it was a heart attack and the fact that Dr. Stone was like this super scientist when it came to technology and stuff, it was like one of those things, like no matter what Victor could have done, he can't stop that, right? It's kind of like in Superman the movie, the reason why Pa Kent's death's so effective is it's something that Clark couldn't prevent. So I did like that choice here. It wasn't like a villain got him. It wasn't anything else. It was, it was a heart attack. It was something that's just regular. And how Victor's going to deal with that because his dad pushed him. And then I like here that they bring up that he was never more than a science project to dad. That's how he felt after the accident. And for the first time in a while, that was like the most clear and coherent statement on Cyborg's origin. And now that we got it out, I feel like we can move past that.
Yeah, and he's going to therapy. He's talking about the funeral. You see the Titans at the funeral. Obviously they're mostly dressed in suits, but Dick still get his mask on. I did love though. There's one detail I really like though, which is that Donna has a black dress on that's just a little bit sparkly to mimic the stars on her usual outfit. I thought that was quite funny.
The one that got me was Wally in full Flash uniform with the mask, with the cowl, while wearing a tuxedo or a suit.
Yeah, I was gonna say tuxedo. People don't wear tuxedos to funerals.
No, with a suit, because with Dick, I get he just puts the domino mask on, right? He's Flash is wearing a full headpiece, and that I know it's a funeral. It's supposed to be, but that made me laugh, like just because it looks so funny. So,
yeah. It's I think it's a pretty solid first issue. Not great, but I do like I think the art's quite nice. It's different. It's got kind of a thick lines, kind of cartoony vibe to it that I think makes it feel a little bit distinct. I think it suits I think it suits Cyborg actually. I think his hair looks really good in this art style for whatever reason. I don't know if it's just because it's more inky and got thicker lines, but like it looks like it works with him. So it sets up that his ex-girlfriend was the one that was calling him to tell him about his dad. The one thing they do here that I'm not like sure about yet is that there's this angry reporter who's like talking about how much she hates Cyborg. Yeah,
and her whole dumbass of the week statement. It was to me it was super overwritten, and I get what they're doing. It's to show like media coming out against like Cyborg, and it's not great for Detroit, and but yeah, it was very heavy-handed.
It was also a tough couple of pages to read because it was just lots of panels of her talking, and then there was also the on-screen chat at the side to read. There was a lot going on,
which a lot of those were repeated because I went back and read them all just to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Of course.
So yeah,
of course. So like I appreciate that it is actually trying to take Cyborg's story forward, although the realization that his dad has put his mind basically into a robot body. Because at the end of the issue, we've got this weird robot body walking towards like the family home, as Victor's walking about reminiscing about all the old memories. And
and I like that they go to his family home because after his accident, they kind of moved out of there. Because because in this one, did the accident that got him also get his mom, or did mom die before? I can't remember.
No, mom died later.
Okay, so it was after he had the accident and they all moved out. So I like when he goes there, everything looks the same, but there's like this thick layer of dust, But yeah, as he's talking about,
No, maybe it was before. I'm doubting myself now.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
But it doesn't matter. But it was after his accident, they moved, and his dad just basically spent all the time in the lab, right? And stuff, and focusing on the project that was Victor. But like as this robot is heading towards the house, and he's talking about his dad's room and his room, and then the robot goes into the dad's room and like gets into the drawers. I'm like, what? and then I put it together what this was.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's this robot walking down the street. Everyone's like, "Oh, that's weird and creepy looking," and it's a very creepy robot design. It's very sleek.
Yeah.
It's very skinny and like unhuman. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, it's like, "Father," and he's like, "Victor, by God, son, you've got the stuff of brilliance." So, and he's got a name tag as well, just in case you were confused about who it was.
Right.
Like, I think it does kind of neuter the because I was like kind of happy early on that he was dead, just because I was like, oh, this is actually well, no, just because this is actually a new thing. It's actually taking it forward, and like Victor actually dealing with his father after he's dead, and he has these like regrets, or is he even happy he's dead? That's something that's brought up. Like, does he feel that way?
Right, but like, is this his dad, or is this just an AI that thinks it's his dad?
I mean, that's a question. But I guess my concern is that I thought, okay, we're moving to a new area, but if his dad's just back in a slightly new form, then we're just going to like slide back into daddy issues again. It just happens to be a robot instead of a human now.
Yeah.
So
but we'll see. I'm curious. It definitely, this is the most the Cyborg book has hooked me early from all the times that I've tried. So I did like the joke though too with that weird news anchor where her sponsor is this ambulance chasing lawyer, but it's more specifically in Detroit. It's like, has a supervillain injured you? So as this robot's walking down Victor Street, one of the guys yells that he's going to call that lawyer, right? Because of
that's right, yeah.
I thought that was a fun little moment.
That was the other thing about that news segment is that it introduced two different characters in her reports, and I thought that was a bit awkward and clunky. Like
it was. Because
it introduced the reporter, it introduced the lawyer, the skeevy lawyer, who does like dodgy, like, oh, if a superhero like wrecked your car or injured you, like call me for a claim. It introduced him, and then it introduced this other scientist or guy or whatever he is, who tries to come and talk to Vic later, and I'm sure he'll be important for the plot. Like going forward,
so he has a company called Solace, and they do like a lot of like genetic type stuff, and like you send them a sample of your saliva, and they'll get you on a workout routine and all this other stuff. And he worked with like Victor's dad, Silas, was one of his first investors. So it also feels like they're going to do some like, oh, this is the son that he always thought this is the son that he wanted. Because Victor talks when he's talking to his therapist about how his dad never really approved of him playing sports. Mom always kind of encouraged him to like be the best you. And if that means you're happy playing sports. And it almost feels like this kid was the Victor that Silas wanted him to be, right? The science guy. So as long as we don't tread on that too much, I think it can be okay.
Yeah, I don't think it was like a knockout the park like the other issue ones. But it was still solid enough. Like I still think it's potentially doing some interesting things with the character. But like all Cyborg books though, like I'm not like 100% convinced it's going to do anything super like notable with the character, but hopefully it does. And whether or not I read issue 2 is just entirely going to depend on how many other books are out that
week. Yeah.
But because this was definitely the lesser of the bunch out of the issue ones. But if this was the worst issue 1 we read this week, then honestly that's actually a really good going.
We're still doing pretty well. Yeah.
So all right, well there you go. What you rating Cyborg?
I'm gonna give this a 7.
Okay. Yeah, I think 7 sounds good. I think that sounds good.